transmitting every Sunday from the mountains of West Virginia. It's Let's Find Out with Diego, available on all your favorite platforms.
Warning. The following program may contain material not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Find a depth unknown, our voice begins to rise, breaking through the noise with fire in its eyes. The spirit of adventure burning ever bright. Hold on tight, travelers, it's gonna be alright. Another week burning, halfway to the end. Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, let the tears descend. Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, night is here. Shatter the silence, conquer all your fear. Bonus Overdrive, the angels gonna scream. With Diego at the wheel, living out a dream.
It's time to find out with Diego. Let's go. Ooh, yeah.
On this episode of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, most kids outgrow their childhood monsters, but our guest just started giving them names. Writing horror since the 5th grade, he has turned a lifelong obsession into a masterclass in tension. He hit the ground running with his debut, The Placebo Effect, and never looked back. But he doesn't stop at just one style of scare. From the adventurous chills of the Treehouse Labyrinth and 8 Days Too Late, his work spans the entire spectrum of the genre. All this plus more. Please welcome our new friend and first-time guest, author Steve Wyffels. Steve, my friend, welcome to Bonus Overdrive Wednesday.
How you doing, Diego? Nice to be here.
Oh, I'm happy to have you on, man. You know, I was hoping that it wouldn't snow so hard as it did a few weeks ago, and when it snows very hard in these areas and the winds picks up, I start losing the Wi-Fi or the power. So hopefully it won't happen tonight. I'm very interesting. A lot of things that you're writing about, because on our pre-interview, we were talking about the choose your own adventure books. And I know I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but I love those things. I used to cheat like an MFer back then with, I used to choose something, and then I read ahead. Oh, am I going to die? Oh, yeah, it looks like I'm going to die. I come back and start all over again. But we're going to get into that very soon. Now, from a young age, you've been writing horror stories. So what was going on back then? Because I think around the 5th grade, we're still rather young at that point. What are we, about 9 or 10 years old, perhaps?
Yeah, it all started with it kind of started with like Goosebumps books. Remember those from the 90s, you know?
Yeah.
And so I read those a lot, and then in school we had assignments to write stories, and I just would kind of build off of that. And then I've always liked doing it. When I had the spare time, I'd write stories. I didn't actually get to write my first book and get it, you know, in a book format until about 5 years ago. But the Placebo Effect comes from a dream I had when I was in 5th grade too. So that's pretty cool.
Well, let's dive into that. Now, was that the first time you've had dreams like that and place it into a story, or did you have other dreams after that?
Well, I've had a lot of terror in my childhood dreams, but mostly just the one that I kind of incorporated into it is like the basis for the story. I don't want to give anything away in case anyone wants to go out and read it, you know. But do you want me to tell you about the dream, I guess?
Sure, man. That's definitely very interesting, since that's the springboard to what we have today.
It's silly, but so like in the dream, I'm walking through my grandma's house. I'm not sure what I'm doing or why I'm there, but I passed through her spare room, and she always had stuffed animals and teddy bears and dolls lined up on the walls and the windowsill and stuff. And I'm looking in there, and one of the teddy bears starts talking to me, and then it jumps on the floor and pulls out a gun, and it's like threatening me. So I start running, and the thing chases me through the house and is shooting at me. I pretend to fall on the ground like I was shot, and the teddy bear comes up and goes, "Nice try," and he shoots me dead. So that was terrifying, but that's what got me into liking the concept and wanting to scare other people, I guess you could say.
That explains the book cover. I think it was a lynch mob,
Yeah.
and I can see how that teddy bear would give you nightmares. I could just look in his eyes. It's up to something. But I mean, wow, that's a pretty interesting dream, especially for somebody so young. And I know that you were reading the Goosebump books too, but were there any movies at the time that caught your attention that also gave you a little bit of an influence behind your writings?
Um, yeah, lots of I mean, I guess Stephen King movies definitely I grew up on. And since I've read some of his books, and he's definitely a good influence. And especially It, watching It as a kid when it starts off with all the kids missing and stuff, that was freaky. And so I kind of incorporated that into the Treehouse Labyrinth a little bit, where kids go missing, and it's all based around the young kids there.
Now, at that time, that's the original. It was it a made-for-TV movie, right?
Yeah, the original, yeah.
And then I saw not long ago it was like some sort of remake. I watched it. It's pretty gruesome. This
Yeah.
remake. I think although it was a little bit more, I want to say more horror related, more scarier, but I think the original one had the spirit of it was a little more. I think it told the story better. That's just my opinion. I'm not a director, but I think going back to the original, I think that one gives me the creeps more than this one.
Right, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Now, moving on, because we're talking about now from fifth grade, we're moving on to high school. There was a writing assignment that your English teacher really liked. What did you write about that caught that person's attention?
Oh, yeah. It was so long ago, it's hard to remember details, but I remember the main character was just like a loony in this book we had to write, or this book we had to read for an assignment. And then the bonus assignment afterwards, he kind of threw it in there. He says, you got to write a chapter, pretend it's part of the book, and throw it anywhere in there, in the beginning, the middle, the end. You can choose any character you want. Make another chapter for the story. So I used the crazy main character, and I wrote another chapter. I don't remember what I said, but he came to me afterwards and said, "This is the best thing I've ever read." And he's like, "Can I use this to show the other classes as an example of how to do the work?" And I was like, "Sure, that's cool." And maybe feel special. And then come to find out, he used that paper year after year for other for other classes after I had graduated. So that was pretty cool.
So maybe they owe you some sort of royalties from your work being used to teach other people, which is that's kind of good, man, because that tells you definitely that your skill set not only captured the imagination and the attention of your teacher, but the students afterwards. So that's pretty awesome. But there was some time between then and further into adulthood. Was there some sort of break? Because I understand you're also a musician as well.
Right, right. I don't know. I actually, what happened is I've wanted to write for fun for a long time, like you said, since I was a kid. But it was when COVID hit, and I lost my job for a little bit of time, and that's when I started writing. I was like, I got the opportunity. Before I get another job, I'm going to start writing, and so I've started working since then, obviously. But I kept writing because it was just fun, and I like the when someone says they love your book and they get emotional over it. That's a good feeling. So there's just not too many fans, but I got a few.
No, those few grow to many. And it's interesting because you mentioned COVID. It's probably the most awful time our country has gone in modern time. But some positives came out of the COVID era.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
gave birth to a lot of authors, some filmmakers, podcasts. So people had really a lot of time to sit down and think, especially those who are creative, such as yourselves. Because when you're looking at being a creator, you can't just stay still and do nothing. You got to sit there and just write. I mean, what else is there to
Right.
do?
Right, yeah. Well, it's the time where your skills come to life, I guess. So Yeah, it was a blessing in disguise, that COVID thing. For that aspect, anyways. There was a lot of bad that came with it, obviously. Not gonna sit here and downplay it or anything, but yeah.
No, you're right. It was pretty awful, man. It was probably some of the worst things I've seen in a while as far as having personal freedom is concerned. It was a lot different than I
Yeah.
was accustomed to, but we all went through it together. So hopefully we all come out stronger afterwards. When you're writing your stories, because your stories are for people of all ages, and I'm thinking, how do you break it up? Because I look at it like this: if you're going to write a horror book or a story for a young person, you have to have a different strategy as a young adult or a regular adult. What is what's the challenge of doing that and breaking it up like that?
Yeah. So with the adult ones, I kind of let anything fly, but I don't get too graphic. I don't make any sex scenes, and I don't let the f bomb fly, just because I don't, in case a younger person does pick it up and start reading it. I try to keep the innocence, but other than that, it's gory. It's totally crazy. But the kid ones, it was hard because I did it for, like I said, I wrote the Treehouse Labyrinth for my son when he was 10, and I kind of used images of his friends for characters in the story, and he caught on to it, and so it scared the crap out of him. He cried the first time he read it, and I was like, man, and maybe I got to tune it down a little bit. So I changed a couple things to make it not so scary, and it was a hard thing to figure out because I haven't been in the 10-year-old's head in a while. So, but it's good now. I get a lot of responses from it. A lot of people like it. More adults than the kids, actually.
Or, adults will read children's books as well for young adult because even though it's written for a younger audience, the spirit of what you're trying to get out is still there. It can still be creepy and be tasteful at the same time, kind of like horror movies. Depending
Yeah,
on what styles you're on, you're either into gore porn or not. But you can tell a story without using the gore or the language. I think you get your message pretty clearly through.
yeah, pretty much.
And let's go back to your music. What instruments are you playing? I think you play multiple, right?
Yeah, I do a little bit of everything. My main instrument is guitar. I've been playing that since I was 15. And I picked up the bass to start playing that with other bands. And then I actually bought a drum set. Well, my brother had a drum set years ago, and I learned on that. And then I bought a drum set 3 years ago. I've been playing that, and I plan on getting a mini recording studio going on and trying to record my own album, actually. It's gonna be tough, but that's a goal of mine.
So what style of music are you playing?
It's all heavy stuff. You got the 90s grunge to the new metal, hardcore screamo stuff. you know, Pretty much it.
So you're gonna be doing your own vocals too?
Yeah, that's the idea. I do back up in the band now, and I'm not a bad singer or nothing, but we'll see how it works. You never know until you try. So, same
Yeah, I
thing with
mean,
the writing.
right now, because now with music, and you're eventually gonna start writing lyrics for these songs. I'm thinking, what subject matter are you gonna cover? I'm thinking, are you gonna go down a horror path, or are you gonna do something different?
Um, honestly, do you know who Soulfly is?
Yeah.
The band Soulfly. They got a lot of their lyrics are dark and a lot of apocalyptic scenery and stuff, and uh, biblical doom and stuff. They a lot of his lyrics. I think that's where I would go. Nothing nothing too crazy. Like I try to be poetic in the books. I wouldn't really do that as much. I think I'd focus on the melody and the music first, and then do the words secondary. But yeah, it'd probably be a doom and gloom type of thing, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, and that's fine because eventually you could probably start writing the soundtracks to your own horror books.
Right? Yeah. Two birds with one stone, I guess.
Oh yeah, I mean, you'll get your fans are gonna double and triple. They're like, man, I love your music, I love your books, and then we'll have songs that tell a story, like concept albums. It's endless. The possibilities of what you can do, especially somebody as creative as you. So, what have you been working on lately? Because I know you recently released a book not long ago, but I know that because I have friends who are also authors, they write a book and they're already saying to me, I already got notes for the next one. I'm like, bro, relax. You just released one. He goes, I can't relax.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing now?
I've got a bunch of ideas. I wanted to. My next goal is to have 2 different novels of short stories, one for adults, one for kids. I've started the kids one already, working on a little alien story. But then I got a lot of crazy psychological stories in mind, like mental institution stuff and ghosts. The typical ghost stories, but with twists you haven't seen yet. That's what's in the works.
Well, now that you're a little bit older, and I know we talked about how Stephen King was one of the ones that you really looked up to. Where are you drawing your inspiration from now?
Um, my own brain, I think. I'm not sure. It was a mixture of things. The first few books, I was trying to gather ideas from lots of different sources and stuff, and now I'm just like whatever pops into my head, I'll write it down. Even if it's in the middle of the night, I'll get up and go write it down and try to incorporate that into the story. And my wife gives me ideas too. Sometimes she'll be like, "Hey, do this," and hey, that's a good idea. I'll throw it in. Did you know that she drew the second cover to my last book? She's a little artist.
No, I was, one of the things I always like talking about the artwork, the meaning behind the artwork, who did the artwork. So, I mean, you answered one of the questions. So, you have the books with you now. We'll talk about these covers.
Sure, I do have them. I don't have the. Yeah, well, the Placebo Effect and its sequel, the Nocebo Effect, I put into Lynch Mob. It's one novel now instead of 2 smaller books. The original was an actual picture. It's me and my wife, my brother, her sister, just dressed up and by the fire. It was pretty cool. But then I remade it like this, and this is crazy cool. A lot of people like it. So this is just an AI picture, by the way, nothing fancy. I can't copyright it, but I'm allowed to use it at my will. So, but yeah, the original 8 Days Too Late is a novel I came out with about 6 months ago. Was this gets a lot of attention, and then I wanted my wife to draw me a second cover because I like just to mix it up a little bit. So she drew me this guy. It's freaky.
I was just going to ask you because that's on your Facebook profile for your
Yeah.
author page. That's actually, no, I was doing research and who to invite on the show. And I stay up late at nights. I just go down this trail, this rabbit hole, and I try to find very interesting people to talk to. A picture of that cover popped up. I'm like, this is the most ridiculously awesome thing I've seen.
Yeah.
It's the creepiest thing. And then I clicked on it, and well, here you are. So you're saying she's the one that drew that?
Yep. Yep.
I gotta ask, wh- where did that idea come from? And I know I don't want to give a spoiler on the book, but I think it's got a little story there.
The idea, believe it or not, the 8 days concept I took from an ancient apocalyptic book of Thomas, where it just says that the apocalypse happens in 8 days. So I was like, okay, I'll just make 8 days of, so everything in the book is my creation, but it just takes place in 8 days. But one of the passages in the book of Thomas says that women will give birth to monsters. And so that's where the kind of zombie baby came into play. And it's in the story a little bit. I'm not going to give anything away, but yeah. And then I was like to my wife, you just got to draw a zombie baby hanging from a tree. And she did it. So,
It reminded me of, and I know this is not Let's Find Out with Diego. It's more of the paranormal supernatural side. We're on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, but it reminds me of, I want to say Mexico, and I'm sure people will tell me, no, you're wrong. I'm going to say Mexico. Keep it safe. There's a location there where I don't even know if the guy man is still alive. Long story short, there was a death involved with a child, and I think it left behind a doll. So for the many, many years afterwards, this man would hang dolls from trees or put them in the forest, and it's a whole island full of old plastic dolls.
Really?
It's
It's creepy
yeah,
as
it is. That's what
hell.
when I saw the book, I was like, I wonder if that's what it is. Although you have a whole different spin on it, zombie baby. But
It's not. I mean, that's what I kind of portrayed it, but it's not really. It's its own thing. Um, People have to find out reading the book.
oh, that's all right. No spoilers. I don't believe in spoilers here.
Right. Yeah.
So now with 2026 that's here, are you planning on doing any events, any book signings coming up?
I got vendor shows lined up, and I was thinking about the whole book signing. I haven't done it yet, but I have been thinking about it, and there's plenty of places around here to do it. Um, I'm not that good at promoting myself. Anytime I try, I don't know. But yeah, I'm gonna look into the local libraries and see what's going on with that probably this summer. See if I can get some attention that way. Yeah.
I understand the challenge of promoting yourself. You mean you can do the work, you can create the content, you can publish the book, you can put out the podcast. Then the hard part starts in
Yeah.
promoting yourself. And then I've noticed there's so many scams out there with promoting books or podcasts. You got to really watch out, man.
Oh yeah. I get emails every day about someone saying they're gonna help me. I don't think I've met an honest person yet. I think 200-300 of them are just all scammers, and they're just trying to get money, and it's not cool, really. But
No, not at all.
that's what they're doing right now.
I get a lot of DMs on my Facebook page. I'll promote your podcast and guaranteed 200 followers, this and that. Go, really? Guarantee me 200, 2,000 robots or bots following me? Okay. Doesn't really help. But when there's a will, there's a way out there. We're to find a way to best promote our work. And I know you're talking about you have notes written down and stories coming up. Do you have any working titles coming that's in your mind right now?
A title?
Yeah.
Um, the one I'm working on now is going to be called Beyond the Wall, but it's not the typical wall you're thinking about. I won't spoil anything, but yeah, it's the alien story. They're not extraterrestrial, but they're not. It's hard to explain. Interdimensional is more like it. You know what I mean? They're already here.
Well, I'm on the hook already. Everybody knows I love UFO stuff and aliens. So I think once the book comes out, come back on the show. We're going to definitely talk about that. And well, if you're talking about aliens, though, I must ask you, where do you stand on that?
I might get deep on you. I think there's definitely things that are there because millions of people aren't all crazy hallucinating the same thing, But I don't think the space travel the way they claim it to be is even legit. I honestly think aliens are demons, and they're just pretending to be entities from another planet, another world. And they might actually be from here. Do you know who Admiral Byrd was?
Yes, he did. I'm going to say this is back in the 20s or 40s, where
Yeah,
he flew with a squadron down to Antarctica and found a whole city there. I think is it Thule or Tool? Or it
something
might
like
be.
that. But
And
yeah, he
then,
said
yeah.
he found civilizations of creatures, and he said it was the biggest threat to mankind. And this is kind of where the wall comes in my next story. But yeah, so I think maybe those are the beings that are responsible for alien encounters, if you will. That's my thought, anyway.
A lot of people believe the same thing, and I would not discount your theory on that. it was interesting. It's funny you mentioned that. Just about 3 weeks ago, I was listening to a documentary on my way to work about Admiral Byrd, and this guy was like a superstar in his time.
Right.
And then later down the road, people say no, he was full of what, he was intelligent. His journals are fake. I think he had a nephew that said it was not true, but I think the man stuck to his story.
Yeah, I believe what he said was true. And you can tell there's a lot of things that go into hiding. If you look at old ancient maps of like the North Pole, it shows 4 islands and 4 river outlets and stuff. But you look at modern maps, it's all just water or ice. Well, how come all those old ancient maps all show the same thing? Admiral Byrd said he flew over the North Pole and he found land. He said he saw creatures that he had never seen before, didn't know existed. He said it was warm there, it wasn't cold. So that's bizarre. It seems like someone's lying. Someone's lying, covering up something.
Oh no, there's always a cover up somewhere, because it's my understanding, and I know technically there's people that do travel to Antarctica, but there's a lot of no fly zones there.
Yeah, and there's the treaty too from 1958 or whatever. That all these nations you're not allowed to go there without permission or whatever. So if it's just an empty wasteland of barren coldness, then why couldn't you just go explore? Right?
Yeah. And I'll play devil's advocate on this one. Maybe they're just worried about your safety.
Yeah, but when have they ever been worried about your safety like that? It could be, but I don't buy it.
Neither do I. But that's okay. So now we're coming close to the end of the show, and I'm want to get down to some. We mentioned it earlier on the pre-interview, maybe earlier in this interview. The choose your own adventure books. I love those things. The As I confessed earlier, I always cheated on those things. And I think we mentioned that earlier. And it's been so long since it's been a really good choose your own adventure book. Where did you go down that path?
Why did I?
Yeah.
I don't really know. It just popped into my head one day. I think it was because I was starting to write the story, and I had too many ideas for the same story. I didn't know which direction to go in. I'm like, this is a good idea, but then this is a good idea, and I couldn't choose. So I'm like, well, I could just do both. And then it turned into, hey, I got a bunch of ideas. Let's just make it 20 different stories in one book, So, and I also liked the Choose Your Own Path books as a kid, but I tried to improve on it. And it's not just page to page; it's actually a chapter to chapter. Choose Your Own Path. So, and it kicks it up a notch.
I'm always a fan of that. When I was, I think in my early teens, I got out of reading, but there were some video games back then. I don't even know what computer system had it. This is pre Genesis, I might have been driving the Nintendo time, but there was a computer system that had games, but they were kind of like choose your own adventure. There was one about like a mafia game, and you would choose what are you going to do, this or that. Half the time you wind up getting shot because you definitely made the wrong decision and making a boss very angry. But it was kind of like in the spirit of choose your own adventure books. I was a very, very, very big fan. Something very interactive about it.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do another one?
I thought about it. My wife wants me to do one for adults. It was really hard. I mean, because I intertwine the paths to the storyline, so it'll split off, and then something will happen. It would have to come back, and trying to get all the different storylines to intertwine and come back together was one of the toughest things I've done. It's possible in the future I will do one. It's not on the list right now of things to do, but it's possible.
But it is on the radar, so now you kind of have to do it because
Right? Yeah, I figured I will eventually.
Yeah. So, well, with your books, I know they're currently available on Amazon. Is there any other sites that is available? Can they buy one directly from you? How can our listeners find out more about you and your books?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a website, but I do have a Facebook page. Steve Wyffels author. You could any way you can get a hold of me through email or Facebook. I have copies of my books. They're in bookstores around the Finger Lakes area. An example is Stomping Grounds Gifts and Books in Geneva, New York. If you wanted to go there, I got copies of stuff there. Dork Forest Comics in Clifton Springs. That's a good dude. He's got a lot of cool stuff over there. Yeah, so I'd rather, yeah, Amazon, they like to take a good chunk of the money for themselves. Kind of stinks.
That's true. Well, that's why they're the biggest company in the world. They take pretty much all of your money and your content. But it gets out there, though, so that's very important. So they're good for that.
Yeah, Amazon's, yeah, they help out. And it's on Kindle. You can get it for free. My book's for free on the Kindle Unlimited, which is through Amazon too. So, which is cool. I'd rather people read them. I know some people that support me by like, I'll buy your book, but then they just sit it on the shelf and never read it. I'd rather the opposite. I'd rather give you the book for free and you read it and like it and tell me that you liked it and tell other people about it, you know.
Well, and that makes perfect sense. Now, I'll admit this, though. I do buy physical books.
Yeah.
And I get them autographed. I don't read them. I put them on the shelf. But then I go and I download the book on my Kindle. Because you know why? It might sound silly to some. I don't want to ruin the book. I don't want to wrinkle the pages. I just want to have it nice there in display, but I also have it on Kindle. Is that crazy or what?
I mean, hey, if that's what you like to do, that's cool. I get a nice crisp book is cool. But, you know, I'd rather read a physical book than look at a screen. That's just me. Looking at a screen too long hurts my eyes anyways. It's nice to feel the paper and smell the paper. You know.
And then there is something to that, kind of like when you back in my day buying vinyl or cassettes. Or we're gonna predate that. Back when they used to sell costumes in Halloween in boxes, it smelled like chemical and rubber and plastic, but it was awesome. Most awesome smell in the world.
Nostalgic, you knew what it was, you know.
Absolutely. And my friend, I'd love to bring you back on the show once you release the book about aliens. We're gonna talk more about Admiral Byrd. We'll talk about more about your theories on aliens. I'll bring you on Let's Find Out with Diego. We're going to go deep into this ufology, you and I.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, my friend.
Embrace the spirit of adventure as you join us on this daring journey through the untamed wilderness of Diego the Podcaster's Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. Real people, real stories, really on Wednesday. Available now on YouTube Music.
All content on this broadcast is a property of Diego the Podcaster and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, Diego the Podcaster, or Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. The information shared on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.